All right. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Jay.
Firstly, I just want to say big thanks for coming down and doing this today. I think.
That's all right.
No, I just think what we're about to talk about is quite a big topic, obviously, that we both feel quite connected about. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of need to hear what we need to discuss, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think part of the problem is that talking about grief and grief in general, or like death, is quite taboo.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's definitely should be spoken about more.
I just think one of the things I kind of want to start off talking about is how with like loss, like, and grief, no one really teaches you what it means to grieve. No one teaches you like when it comes, like, what, you know, the implications and like the thought process and all that kind of thing. And it's just like, especially being, you know, two young adults or kids sort of thing, when adults, but it's almost quite scary sort of thing.
Yeah. I think like when it first happens, you don't really know what is happening.
Yeah.
And I think the process of like going to a funeral, going through like sit shiva and everything. Yeah. Because I don't know about you, but my dad's funeral was the first funeral I've ever been to. Okay. So it's kind of just like you're thrown into this like deep end almost. Yeah. And it's like, this is what you have to do. And
it's almost, the thing I would say is when the shiva and the funeral happened for me, it was almost like I didn't quite believe what was happening. Like, I remember, like, I find comedy something, I try and find funny things in most situations, and it was like, it was almost like I didn't feel sad, and I was like, looking back at it now, I'm almost like questioning why I didn't understand why I wasn't, you know, feeling sad. I was just sort of like living through the process, and it was just like happening, but it was just, my mother just died, and I'm just almost not oblivious, but it was like I wasn't sort of ready for this. I'm just sort of living through the motion sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's funny you say that, because I remember like it was probably like maybe 6 months before my dad passed away. I was at therapy, and the therapist was like, how would you feel if your dad died? And I remember thinking, like, why are you asking me that? Obviously it's not going to happen. Like, that wouldn't happen to me. Why would that happen to me, you know?
Exactly.
Because like when you hear these stories about, oh, so-and-so's dad passed away, so-and-so's mum passed away, like, oh, it's really sad, but it's not you. And then when it's you, obviously it takes that, it's just a complete different ball game. I mean, obviously, but it's a complete shock. And I know what you mean. Like, I think back to like when my dad's funeral, and you almost you don't believe it. It's like you're not really there. I kind of feel like I had, like, it sounds really stupid, but like an out of body experience. Like you're watching yourself there, but you're not really just experiencing it. I just
remember, like, when you're sitting shiva and everyone's saying, I'm sorry for your loss, I'm sorry for I'm looking at my brother, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, it just all seems so surreal. Like, the feelings itself hadn't actually kicked in yet. And the biggest, I don't want to say biggest mistake, but a big mistake that I made was I thought I was okay, because this was my mum had cancer, and this was something I had dealt with for a long time. So although I didn't think it was going to happen, there was like maybe however small it was, a bit in my mind thinking, all right, you know, this is something that potentially may, you know, come about. And when it happened, I was like, all right, because I'm prepared for this, I'm just going to go back to uni and almost be normal. And I think when I did that, once I went back to uni and I started seeing friends, like laughing and mum, I just had a lecture or whatever. I think that's when it kicked in for me, and sort of just, I realised I wasn't okay, and just the feelings that, you know, that I had just overwhelmed me almost, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's why, like, the Jewish tradition of having like a funeral a day or two later and then the shiva, I don't like, because I feel like you need that time to process it, and
what's happened.
And if you're just straight in going to the funeral, straight in having all these people like at your house, like, how are you meant to process it? It's almost like it's just kind of like a scene from a movie, and then everything's going to go back to normal and everything's fine. Because I feel like you said, like, the grief only hits you like a bit later on, because it's such a whirlwind with all these people around, all this stuff going on, the funeral, friends bringing like food around. You don't really have time to realise, and it's only when you're left on your own, like you said, going back to uni, is when it actually hits you, and you're like, shit, I'm not okay, because how can you be?
And I think that's a very important point. Like when it comes to the shiver, you know, it's almost not all about you, but like everyone's sort of, you know, there for you. Everyone's sort of, I don't want to say in your face, but it's like all these people come round and then once, for me, I think I was a little older than you were, but going back to uni, and then I'd be at home and alone in my room, and then I'd almost just start thinking, and the feelings that I was trying to just displace and not think about, they just almost come. I think when you're by yourself a lot of the time, that is when a lot of the thinking happens almost. Like that's when things you're not in control of just sort of comes and just takes over your mind sort of thing. Like, also one thing I do want to say is, like, in terms of cancer itself, what cancer did your dad have again? It was
myeloma, so it's like a bone marrow cancer.
I think the difficulty of it is it's always present. Do you know what I mean? Like, however long she had it for, it was like a big part of her life. I mean, I think because for me, I think you as well, we were 8 when our parents were diagnosed. It's kind of like all you know, because that's what you've grown up with. So it's like, dad has cancer and it's terminal. And who knows if he's going to recover or what's going to happen. I mean, my dad was in remission for quite a while. And then it wasn't actually the cancer that killed him. It was he got something in his lungs, and it was like he had loads of fluid in his lungs. And it was like amyloids on his heart. I don't know the ins and outs. I was 16, but that's what I was told. And it's just something that you know, and it's something that you've gone through and your friends haven't. And your dad had cancer and theirs didn't. And whilst they're not wrong, you know, they've done nothing wrong, but they don't understand. And they can never almost understand.
Unless they've gone through it, they will never understand. You
know, like you said, being an 8-year-old kid, 8, 9, 10, when your parents first get diagnosed, it's just like, you're 8 years old, like that, something like this brought into your life at such a young age. And I think that definitely does something to a kid. I know, from speaking for myself, I think my whole sort of mentality, I don't want to say I matured, but it definitely, my look on life from a young age was, I think, definitely very different to a lot of my peers, because I just always knew that, seeing how weak and how ill my mum was, after chemo or just small things that other parents may not have had, and I think that definitely implicates like a child's mind sort of thing.
I think you definitely become more aware of like the fragility of life, and I'm not saying it's wrong if you aren't aware of that, but we obviously, because of what we've experienced, we are aware of that, and I think that is just something that comes with the territory, really. Unfortunately, but I think it does make you more aware of who you do have in your life and what you have to be grateful for. Obviously, I mean, I sometimes find it really hard to be grateful for what I have, because I just think, but my dad's not here. But then my brother reminds me, but we have such amazing other family around. But it's like, but how can I be grateful for that? Do you know what I mean?
Like, I understand. I think also it's interesting because we are both on different, stages. Like, my loss is quite recent. But correct me if I'm wrong, but something like grief, it's always going to be there. Like, knowing just whatever it is, just the thought process of, she's not going to be around for certain events, or from what I noticed, some days I'm completely fine, I'm happy, I'm with my mates, and it's not something I think about, and in a split second I could be, so something may come over me and almost feelings all just come rushing back. And you're a lot further down the line than I am, but from what I assume, it just isn't something that goes, sort of thing. I mean, I think if anything, not to scare you or anything, but I think I want you to tell me.
I think it gets worse, because the longer you've been without this person, you realise how long it's been since you saw them, or since you last heard their voice, or since you last gave them a hug. And I think that is so hard, because I'm 7 years down the line and I'm only 23, so I've still got the rest of my life. And it's like, but he won't be here
Yeah.
he wasn't here for my graduation.
Yeah.
He won't be here for, hopefully, if I get married, if I have kids,
Yeah.
you know, and there's all these, big life events that you're just thinking about. And not even big life events, just if you wanted to
Just
speak to
a
them.
little chat. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, I always sometimes wonder, like, what would my dad say? And
Yeah.
I really try to think about that, but it's like, I don't actually know.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen the guy in 7 years.
Yeah.
And
That's a long time.
what's so hard for me, I think, is that I've changed so much in 7 years. He passed away, I was a 16-year-old girl, you know, I didn't have my braces yet, had a big nose, and like, he didn't really know me. And I think that's what really upsets me the most, is that who I am today is not who he knew 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think that will always stick with me as one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if he were here today, would he even recognise me?
Yeah.
Would he know who I am? I mean, obviously he would. I'm his daughter, but it's like, he doesn't know me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with grief, is that it's always going to be there. And, you know, people say time heals wounds, and that is the one thing I hate.
Yeah.
Because I think time makes wounds worse.
Yeah. I mean, although I'm not at the same stage as you, a lot of the things that, you know, you brought up are things, you know, I do think about. I try and do it whenever I feel quite low or things like that. I used to always, you know, message mum, and mum would always whatever it was, you know, she was just like almost not a therapist, but like, you know, just what a mum or a dad should be. And, you know, now I find myself, when I'm in the same position, I still message her. And even though I know I'm not going to get a reply, it's like, I'm still trying to hold on to that, you know, just, it's almost like not accepting that she's fully gone. And I know it does scare me, you know, thinking about how there will be a stage in my life where, so like, you know, before she passed, she made a few videos, and I don't know but further down the line, I'm going to be looking at those videos, and I think I'm just like not going to recognise that woman. Yeah. Because I was, you know, so young. I'm 19, I'm 20 now, but I will get to a stage in my life where I will be older than what she was when she passed, and it doesn't scare me, but it's like I've almost find it quite unfair, like how she, you know, how someone who had so, you know, a wonderful, beautiful person, and almost her life has been taken from her because for no reason almost, but, you know, I suppose there is a reason.
I mean, we were robbed, to put it simply, and we will never get that back. But like you said, I mean, texting her I think is so nice. I mean, I don't even think I have my dad's number on my new phone. I got a new phone.
iPhone.
Yeah, of course. XR. But I think it's definitely important that you hold on to those kind of coping mechanisms, because if that's what helps you or makes you feel better, that's really important. Obviously she's not going to reply, but if it makes you feel better to be like, Mum, I'm having a bad day, and you send that text, that's really important for you, because if that makes you feel better, then I think that's really important.
I think it's almost me still just having like a connection, even though she isn't here. It's like I'm still just reaching out to try and have some sort of like relationship almost. Like, you know, I keep seeing pictures and things like that, and like it kind of breaks my heart a bit, like knowing how strong and how much she went through, because she went through a fucking lot. Like, you know, no person should go through what, you know, our parents went through, like. And it was the fact that despite it all, despite how you know, she couldn't swallow, she couldn't eat food, despite how, you know, skinny she was because she couldn't put on weight or whatever it was, she was still like this strong, incredible woman. Like, one thing I want to say is, like, so she had like a blood transfusion, like she had chemo, and the same day she did a fashion show, and she like did a speech for like a charity. And like thinking back at that now,
That's amazing.
That's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like, chemo's, I've never had that, but seeing what it does to her, and the fact that she managed to pull herself together and still do something, inspire other people, I just thought that was amazing. And that's just kind of what kind of person she is, sort of thing.
Yeah. Like, my dad never complained.
Yeah.
Not once did he ever question, like, why me? This is horrible. Like, this is so painful. He used to have blood transfusions. Sorry, every week, and never once questioned it. And if I was in that position, I would be being like, why the fuck me? Like, I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? And he never did. And I always will remember that and try, like, be like that, because I feel like
take that forward. Whatever it is, I think, what's crazy is she would never why me? She would never say that. It was always like, all right, I have this, but it's not going to take me. I'm going to still be here. I'm still going to fight. And one memory I have, she was in hospital, and this was like towards the end. And I went back to uni for a day, and she messaged me, and she was like, you know what, I'm feeling quite positive. I've got, even though, the doctors were like, it's not looking good and things like that, she still had this undeniable positivity and this mental, like, strength that she was going to recover, and she was still going to fight. And I think
that's amazing.
And to me, that's like a lesson for life almost, just like, whatever is in your way, whatever, like, challenges you have, if like your mental fortitude, your strength you have, I think that definitely can take you places. And I think she taught me a lot of lessons, but one thing definitely has been her undeniable, just like, strength. It's crazy. But that's obviously... Yeah,
I think something that I've learned from my dad is, once he was diagnosed, he only worked half days. He was a dentist, and he used to spend the rest of his days going and taking pictures at Luton Airport of the planes.
Okay.
And he just used to say, like, I want to do what I want, and I'm going to do what I want. And I think maybe I take that too literally, because sometimes just like, I'm going to do what I want. But I'll always, like, remember to, like, just follow your dreams, do what you love. If you've got a passion, follow it. Like, there's no point doing something you don't want to do. And
I completely agree. I think with life, especially in the past, if there was something I was like 2 minds about, like, but not going to a party, but like, let's say there was a project that I had, and I'd be like, oh, but what was if my mates thought this way of me, or what was if so and so, and it just gets to the point, like, you know what, fuck that, like, life is so short, and you don't know what's around the corner. And if there is something you want to do, and if there is like a journey or whatever it is you want to do, I just think you should do it, because some people don't get the chance. And she was early 50s when she passed, and 51 or 50, I don't know, 50, I want to say 52. She probably smacked me for not knowing her age, but
you should know that.
Yeah, I should, to be fair.
Come on, Joe.
But yeah, like, it's so young.
Yeah, it is.
And like, you see what, I don't know what it is. I think maybe a jealousy almost, when I see friends and their parents having a good time, and inside I have this like rotting feeling, like, even though it's not, I don't know what, it's just like in my face, sort of thing.
It's hard not to be resentful. I think definitely I get that as well. I mean, if someone just like a passing comment, like, oh, my dad said this, and I'm just kind of like, I wish I could say that. Like, I wish I could say my dad said this, or my dad told me this. I don't think that will ever go away, unfortunately. It's just something that you get used to, and when I say you get used to it, it still fucking hurts. But you don't have a choice. You have to get used to it, because firstly, that's what your mum would want. I mean, obviously, I'm sure she would rather be here, but she'd rather not be here, and you get used to it than you just kind of crumble on the floor. And I'm sure there's moments where you want to do that. I've wanted to do that many a time. But you just have to kind of carry on, because like I said, like, there is no choice, and it's fucking shit.
It's the hand we've been dealt. This is what it is. You can't can't change what we have. And
Yeah.
almost going forward, we kind of have to. I'm gonna just check because I don't know. But yeah.
Just checking we weren't talking to ourselves.
Two microphones.
Yeah.
Weirdos.
Just having a chat, like.
Yeah, we do this all the time. Yeah. So what were we saying?
About how we've been. This is the hand we've been.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's just. This is like what it is, and although I'm not too far down the line, like this is all quite new to me. I think having been in a situation where this is part of my life for a long time, like having the cancer, it's almost like it's always, I think I said it before, but it's just something that is in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely remember.
The thing is that obviously there was always a chance that my dad was going to pass away because he had cancer, but I don't think I ever registered it. I mean, I don't know about you, but it never quite hit me. Okay. And I think maybe that was my kind of coping mechanism. Like, oh, he's fine. But I think maybe that's why I was so shocked when it happened.
I think, even though when I say it's in the back of my mind, I know exactly what you're talking about, because I remember this passing summer we were in Israel, and although at this point she was really weak and it wasn't looking good, even though at that time I was still just thinking like, she's just gonna have treatment, whatever it is, and like in 8 months down the line she'll be better and she'll be okay. And it didn't register fully until Dad had a chat with me. He was like, this is what's happening and this is what's gonna happen. Yeah. And I was almost like, sorry, what? Like, she was just here dancing on the couch like 3 days ago. Yeah.
And like, you must be joking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, I was just it was like a big shock. And I think even though all the signs were there, despite it, having an acknowledgement that something was gonna happen, I just think I tried to ignore it and tried to just hold on to having a mother, a figure like that, just still, present in my life, sort of thing. Yeah.
I remember it really well. I really had no idea how ill my dad was when he was really thin as well, I think he also kind of went into himself because my dad was a dentist and he was medically aware, I think. Yeah. So he knew what was going on in his body. Yeah. So he went a bit quiet because he was full of life. I mean, I think I'd take after him. But he was so quiet and he was thin and coughing, but I didn't really realise anything. And then the Monday we went back to school, and I remember my head of year, Mr. Bruce, called me in and he was like, "We've heard your dad's really ill." And I was like, "Really? Are you sure?" Yeah. And then he died the next day. And I don't think I went back to school until like my GCSEs. Yeah. Like 2-3 months later. Yeah. But it was just like, what? He's got cancer, but he's okay. He'll get through it.
That's the thing I kind of not want to talk about, but being so young, and obviously, fortunately, I was a bit later on for me. But I know, my sister she's only 14, so being a 16-year-old, like what would you say to her that going forward, how the mentality and being a 23-year-old now, and what would you say to her, just sort of like?
I think what I'd say to her is that you're gonna have some bad days, and that's okay. I think it's really important to be aware of how you're feeling, and if you are feeling shit, that's okay. Take it in your stride. You're going to have bad days. You lost your mum, It's okay to feel that way. But it's important to try keep some motivation and think, you know what, this is how it is. And I just have to get through it. Almost kind of use it as a motivation. I think that's something that I didn't do. Yeah. I kind of played the victim when I was younger, especially like through A-levels. Maybe at uni as well. I don't know, maybe still now. But my brother, he definitely used it as motivation. Yeah. And he's fucking successful today. Yeah. So I think that is something that if I could tell my younger self or tell your sister, I would say definitely use it as something to motivate you, you know, make mum proud. I'm sure she is regardless.
Yeah.
But I'll
you
make
sort
mum
of
proud.
have like an obligation almost.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I think also being so young, a lot of people almost don't know what to say, and you know, loss and death and things like that. People don't, you know, it's almost like they push it under the rug. They don't want to think about it because, like, fuck, like
it is a taboo subject.
Yeah.
I mean, when at school would you ever kind of talk about death?
Yeah.
You know, it's just not something that's spoken about because it is a sad topic.
Yeah.
And you don't want to talk about it because I guess it is quite awkward and uncomfortable.
It's awkward. It is very awkward because despite what you're feeling, you know deep, people aren't gonna sort of they aren't gonna feel the same, and they're not in the same wavelength. And I think that does make it very hard to talk about because you know, even now I still feel like people just expect, well, it's a different thing, but people sort of expect me to feel sad all the time, and it's like how I am. They expect me to be a certain way, sort of thing. And I think just because this has happened doesn't mean you can't interact and be just normal around me and be a normal person and just how things were before. Like, you don't need to almost step on eggshells. Like, if you say the wrong thing, I'm going to start crying, because that's not what's going to happen. I just think because it's not spoken about, especially when you're so young and many people haven't experienced it, it's like a guessing game. Like, how am I supposed to, Joe's lost his mum, I'll send him a message every 2 weeks or whatever it is. Yeah. And that is really nice, but sometimes, you know, what I want is just things to be normal. And despite things not being normal, you want to restore some form of normality, definitely. Yeah. I think what upsets me and what I find quite difficult is because it's been 7 years, people expect me to be okay. Yeah. And the harsh reality is that I will never be okay because my dad's not here. Yeah. And I feel like when it first happened, so maybe you're experiencing this now, the support is really prominent, which is amazing. But I feel like over the years it does lose momentum, which is, I find that hard because you always need the support because you've lost this figure that can't be replaced. Yeah. You know, and that's what's so difficult. I think I have amazing friends. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but I think that is definitely something that I wish I could I wish I could not necessarily talk about it more, but maybe even though it's been 7 years, which I guess is quite a long time, it'd still be okay for me to be like, you know what, I'm feeling shit today,
I miss my dad today. Yeah. And it to be like, okay, you know, Kim, tell me about him. Yeah. Let's just listen. I don't think I've ever had that. And I'm not saying that's because my friends are horrible. They're most definitely not. I think it's just because it's not a normal conversation to have, because death isn't something that people just talk about.
Yeah, and especially at such a young age, not many kids go through what we've gone through. And I think when, like, if this, you know, passing didn't happen, my mindset, I wouldn't understand death as I do now, because you know, it's something I am experiencing. Yeah. But
for sure,
I do think it should be, you know, an open conversation, and people should be not willing, but just I suppose willing to just understand what.
Definitely willing, yeah.
Yeah, willing is the word. Just understand what goes on in other people's minds, sort of thing. Because loss is hard. Yeah. It's not easy.
I think it's also quite difficult because everyone does experience loss. Yeah. So people obviously lose their grandparents. Yeah. But I feel like that's expected. That's normal. Yeah. Because, you know, obviously, unfortunately, grandparents are old and they age, and with age does come death. So it's kind of like the normal way of life. Exactly.
Circle of life.
Right. But with us, my dad was 56, your mum 52, 51. Yeah. That isn't normal. Yeah. So it's almost like, because it's not normal what we've gone through, it's not normal to discuss it. Yeah. Which I think obviously is wrong, and I'd love to change it, but I don't know how you can go about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's difficult, you know, for us, because we know what we kind of want, and we know what just to discuss it, or sometimes in my case just make sure things are back to normal. But like for someone else, I think it's like almost because they aren't feeling it, it's hard to sort of rationalize and just get in our head sort of thing. And the thing that I would say is just like, if I think what people should understand is like, if they just want to ask me about it, or just are you, like, do you want to chat about your mum or things like that, and they shouldn't be afraid of like bringing it up.
Because if you don't want to talk about it, you'll say I don't want to talk about it, but the likelihood is you probably want to, because I think it's hard to understand something that you've never been through. You can be empathetic, but the reality is they won't understand, but you can try to and listen. I think through talking and just letting you speak about your mum or me speaking about my dad, you can kind of gauge the loss. You'll never understand the loss if you've not been through it, because you don't have this gaping void. But if you just listen, I feel like you can learn a lot.
Another thing I kind of want to discuss is like, obviously, coping mechanisms. I know we both have found writing to be quite a mechanism that we benefit from. How did you sort of like get into that? Was that?
I think I found it quite hard at the beginning to know what to do with my emotions. I don't know if you kind of experienced that.
Yeah, similar.
I kind of just didn't know what to do with everything that was going on in my head, and then
because it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. You don't really know how to deal with it, and I found that I didn't want to speak to my mum about it sometimes, or my brother, because I didn't want to upset them. So you kind of keep some things to yourself, and I turned to writing. I just used to write a few things down about my dad, and then I kind of turned into poetry, and I used to write poetry. I still write poetry. I'm wearing a quote from my poetry now, actually. Had it made.
Is that your merchandise?
Bit of a plug right here. Poetry by Kim, by the way. But
50% off.
Use Kim at checkout. I started writing poetry, and I find that it definitely helps kind of bring the emotions to light, and definitely kind of exposes what you're feeling, and definitely kind of helps in terms of
understand.
So you read what you've written, because sometimes you're just kind of writing, and you're right. Okay, it's kind of like pinpointing your emotions and what you're feeling, and I found that really helpful. And I post it on Instagram, and just because if there's someone out there that can relate to it and think, wow, she really knows what I'm feeling. For me, that's what I want. That's amazing to me.
I completely agree with that. And I think initially for me, writing was it was a way for me to just get down what's going on up here and sort of just understand almost. And initially it wasn't really spoken word poetry or whatever you want to call it. I just sort of wrote just naturally what was in my head, and like if I reread it now, it just looked like so much shit because it didn't really make sense, but it was like it made sense to me.
It's because it is quite jumbled. I feel like your feelings are quite, it's like a mess up there.
It's not like this, like
there's no linearity.
Exactly. So I then just kind of started just thinking, like creating poetry, and I find it just relieves what's going on up here. It just sort of helps you rationalize and just get down on paper in like a creative way. And if I am feeling shit or I am feeling low, I could just read this and think, like, make sense of what I'm going through. And like you said before, having another benefit of this is how you can help other people in the process. And I think from your poetry page and my YouTube channel. Subscribe, by the way. But you have a YouTube channel? I do think we are helping other people in the process understand loss. And not just people who are going through it, but other people who aren't going through it and may experience it at a later stage. And I think that is so important, because going into it, like I said, I was a mess. I didn't know what grief. I was searching on YouTube. What grief? Like I was, do you know what I mean? Like I didn't know how I was gonna feel, and I think the fact that we can express ourselves and just showcase it is, well, not just powerful, but I know it will definitely help people in the process. So,
and it's helpful for us.
Exactly.
Like, to articulate your emotions is so important, as opposed to just bottling them up. And I think it's essential for anyone. Even if you haven't experienced loss, you should always kind of articulate your emotions, speak to people. But I mean, if we can help just one person who knows how we're feeling, and if someone can listen to your spoken word or read my poetry and think, wow, like, this is how I'm feeling, then I would feel like I've done something right.
Like a good job. And I know in my case, like the way Mum raised me, to help others, to look out for others, and I know she would, she'd be happy to know that I've just helped, even if it's one person. And I think that's also like a motivation for me to like continue doing it, because
definitely
it's positive. Do you have like a particular quote or a particular bit of your poetry? I mean, I don't know if you know it off by heart. That I'll put you on the spot here. But
caught me off guard. Well, actually, funny you mention it, because this quote I think is really does resonate with me. Maybe you can relate to. This is from one of my poems I wrote when I was I've been writing for about 3 years, and this is one of my first. But
dissect my wild brain.
It says dissect my wild brain, because no one knows what someone's thinking, and if you were to kind of dissect or go through someone's mind, you'd really uncover what they're really feeling. And what I'm really feeling is that I miss my dad, and I'm sure other people out there do too. And some of my poems don't cover my dad. I mean, the vast majority do. I've kind of ventured elsewhere.
Expanded your horizon.
Exactly. But I think I mainly kind of talk about seeing him again at some point. I mean, I don't know what I believe about that. I'm not sure what I think, but I definitely talk about seeing his smile. He had this massive smile, and he had a gap in his teeth. So I always talk about his smile. He had really nice green eyes. Yeah. So mainly talk about his physical features a lot. Yeah.
I get that. It's nice to just be able to have something where you can almost remember and just
and visualize them. Yeah. Because like the longer time goes on, the more you kind of forget.
Yeah, that's what I'm almost scared of.
Yeah.
I think I think the brilliant thing obviously of technology and things like that, having the ability to see pictures and hear Mum's voice notes and things. I don't know if that you have that, but for me, like that's really powerful, that I can still see videos and just of her dancing, and I'll remember her for that rather than her last shitty weeks where she was in bed, and I don't even think about that really anymore, because that wasn't her.
I so agree. I think you can't remember them for their darkest days because that wasn't them. That was just them dealing with what they were going through. I think it's important to visualize them. And I think listening to the voice notes or looking at the pictures and then writing. I mean, I don't know what your kind of process is.
Creative. You want tips? What you want?
But I think definitely. Also, I think writing it down, like how, like what my dad looked like or his features, it kind of almost like makes him
still like a rat.
I can't think of the word. Is it eternal or
eternal? Eternal.
It kind of eternalizes him. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm an English student, and I'm
got to be at GCSE. So.
But it kind of like keeps him around. Which obviously
I think it's so important, isn't it? I think the one thing obviously I'm very scared for is almost forgetting her. But I don't think that will ever happen. I think just the kind of person she was, and her strength and how just amazing she was. I don't think I can ever forget that.
What gives me a lot of comfort is like when someone tells me like you're just like your dad. And that it's like I'm carrying him within me. And maybe you get the same when people say that you're so much like your mum, or you look so much like your mum. Like that really gives me a lot of comfort because it's like I'm carrying both him and me.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice way of actually looking at it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about it in that way, but
yeah,
I think that's really quite nice, actually.
Like, just to give a personal insight, I went to South Africa. My parents are from South Africa. And I went in January, and I stayed with my dad's mum.
Yeah.
It was her 90th birthday.
Your grandma.
My grandma. Yeah, that's the other word for it. And she was like, yeah, you're just so much like your dad. And for me, that was the best thing she could have said to me.
Yeah.
Because who knows him better than
his mum. Yeah.
And for her to say that was just like, that's all I needed from her.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's like, he is in me.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It's gonna make me cry. I know.
Sorry.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's just like, whatever it is, your mannerisms or your, however you go about life, things you learn or how they were as when you were young, you've sort of picked that up. And going forward, I think it's nice to know that you have that in you.
Yeah. And no one can take that away from you.
No one can. And hopefully I'll use, the strength that she had to do whatever I want, and if it's make people laugh, I don't know.
I don't think it's that.
Yeah.
But I think one thing I will say to you, not that I'm a professor on grief, but I think I think I did mention it before, is that it's important to know that it's okay not to feel okay. Yeah. And I don't I'm 7 years down the line, and it really upsets me when my brother kind of says, you have to kind of get on with it. You have to move on, because I lost my dad, and that will be with me forever, so I don't have to move on. Yeah. I can carry on with life, I can live my life, but I don't have to move on, because why should I? Yeah. Obviously life
goes on.
It doesn't stop. It didn't stop for us. Yeah. It carries on, but I won't move on. No,
because it will always be something that's a part of you.
Exactly.
And, however, you can't ignore the fact that they aren't here, and whatever you go through in life, they won't be there to see it, and that isn't something that changes.
Exactly.
We can't, if we could go back in time, of course that would be something we'd do, but that's just not what we have. And I'm rambling a bit now, but yeah,
No, it's true though. What you're saying is true. That, they aren't here, but we can keep their memory alive. Yeah. And why shouldn't we?
And I don't want to move on.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of who I am. Yeah. When something like this happens, it's a trauma. It becomes a part of you, and if someone doesn't like that, then
they can.
They can exactly. I mean, fuck you. But yeah.
Passion, please.
It's part of who you are. Yeah. Obviously, you grow from it. You learn from it. You might resent things more. You might learn to appreciate things more. But it is part of you, unfortunately. And I think also that is quite hard, because you become the girl who lost their dad, or the boy who lost their mum. Yeah. Because it is so within you.
Yeah, it's it's almost stitched into your DNA.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been, and I think, going back to obviously the cancer aspect, because it was so evident and so prolific in our life, and it's almost like her. I've almost always been sort of looked upon in that way, his he's got an ill mom, just be wary. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping things get better, because although I am in a better place, I do sometimes I think, like I said, things just can change in an instant. Yeah. And I don't think that will go. I don't think
it won't.
But hopefully, I found writing, and I don't know about you, but I also find exercises, it has quite a positive effect. Yeah. I don't know if you're into your gym or whatever.
Can't you tell? No. Yeah, I exercise is really good for your mental health, I think. I'm quite lazy. Yeah. But I probably should do more. But it's really important to focus on things that make you feel good and make you feel better. And I think as time goes on, you'll find more. I mean, 7 years ago, I didn't really read a lot, but I think now I love reading, especially because it's kind of an escape. You're kind of vicariously living through someone else's life. Yeah. So you don't have to focus on, I've lost my dad. You can read that. Jim,
just escape almost.
Exactly. Jim is, I don't know, a detective on
Jim.
yeah, like
Jim
in the book is on a on a murder case. You know, it's finding ways to cope with it, because the grief doesn't go away. I mean, I'm sure if you speak to someone who's 20 years down the line or 30 years, they'll say they will always think of their parent or who they've lost. You just find ways to deal with it. Yeah. And because you have to.
I think that's what's so important about having, whether it's writing or if you're someone you benefit from exercise, or it could just be, you know, simply watching movies.
Singing, music, dancing, anything.
I think, you know, some movies overlap almost with like what you mentioned about books, because it's almost like whatever I'm feeling up here, watching something or reading something just distracts you and just takes you away almost, whether it's for an hour or 2 hours, and just gives you that peace of mind that you don't always need to feel what's going on in here. You can just you know, have a break. Because we all need a break. Definitely. Before we wrap this up, I do want to end it kind of on one thing. If you had a conversation with your dad, what would you sort of like, if you could have like one conversation, like one discussion, what would you sort of say to him? Oh God, I didn't want to get emotional during this, but I know I put you on the spot. It just popped into my head. No, it's a good question. I think I'd want to say everything, but I think the main thing I'd want to ask him is if he's proud of me. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'd like to think he is, but I think I'd want to know that he's seen what I've been doing, what I've done with my life, and he's thought, just smiling, just looking down, smiling. Is that the same for you? Yeah, I think it would be either, you know, I would want to know if she's proud of me, and I do think she would be, but I'd want her to know that like I'm okay and I will be okay, because I know she would worry about, you know, she's a Jewish mother, she worries about me all the time. Like, I think for her to know that I'm okay, my brother's okay, my sister's okay, my dad's alright, I think. Yeah, that's really nice actually. I didn't even think of that. Well, I did put you on the spot, so it's okay. I'll take that one. But I think just to reassure them, because because I know, you know, before she was gonna pass, when she was in hospital and she saw her kids for the first time, this was like when the doctor told her that, you know, it's not looking good and things like that. And when we walked in the room, you know, she just kind of broke down, and she was sort of saying like, I can't do this, I can't leave my kids, like, you know, they need their mother. And I think for her to know that we are going to be okay, and we are going to do amazing things with life, and I really hope that she's looking down and she'll be able to see that. And I've ended it on quite a sad note, but I think that's kind of loss. It's not a happy thing, and it's just something that it's just always going to be a part of our life. So I think it's just natural. It's what a loss is. It's kind of like a scar. It's always there. Maybe sometimes you can cover it up, you can put a plaster on, you can put some makeup on it, but it will always be ingrained in you. And you just have to carry it with you. You know, whether you're carrying the sadness with you, whether you're having a good day and you think, I'm happy mum, I'm happy dad, or, you know, if you're feeling shit, it's just one of those things that's going to be with you. Well, I think this was quite an emotional conversation, but thank you for having me. No, honestly, thank you for doing this. I think you know, this has been a very, you know, open, honest chat, and hopefully people can look at that and sort of they'll have a better understanding of what loss is and you know, what that means to people like us.
Yeah. And I think if one thing I would say, if to anyone who is watching this, it's okay to ask questions.
Yeah. Just looking into the camera.
Like, you can ask, you know.
Yeah.
What was your dad's, I mean, hopefully they'd know, but what was your dad's name? Like, what did he do, you know?
Yeah.
I like to talk about him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's okay to ask questions.